All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Best of Six, the podcast with a fresh new look and even newer title slide things. Joining me, as always, is Dan, Julian, Larone, and Mitch. Mauricio has
Hello.
continued to take a temporary sabbatical, but hopefully we should see him back next week.
That sabbatical is usually really long.
And it has been a while. It is longer than the vacation time we would normally give. So, Mauricio, if you're out there, we miss you, buddy. Get well soon. So,
Longer than the vacation time we'd usually give.
yeah.
I guess if we take any vacation time, we've not really sure the definition of sabbatical is.
I think
know it's like a vacation.
It's like a vacation. Do you usually get paid for a sabbatical? I don't actually know.
I think you would have to, because who in their right mind would take a vacation that long without pay?
Well, usually sabbaticals are taken by like CEOs and stuff, like
It's
My,
like
and the physics
executives.
department apparently.
Oh,
so the definition of sabbatical: a period of paid leave granted to a university teacher or other worker for study or travel, traditionally 1 year for every 7 years worked.
wow, that's a great deal.
Yeah, that is a great deal.
Yeah, I want that, a year off for 7 years of work. That's awesome.
You think they like actually make you travel, or can you just stay home and play video games?
You can
I
travel.
think
You can
you need to,
travel
like-
to the couch.
So I had a professor in college who went on sabbatical right before he taught my class, and he talked about going on sabbatical a lot. And he did it like he was a Jewish professor who taught like English classes and like movie classes, and he went to Israel and like worked on a book. So it was very much study related.
Fair enough. All right. Anyway, let's dive into the news this week. First topic is Retro Commodore 64 Mini will launch in the U.S. in October. Europe's already had it for a little while now, and sure.
No, I should not have voted this topic.
I don't know. I don't know why people are excited about the Commodore 64 personally, but I'm sure it's nostalgia, just like all of them. Some people, I'm sure, have Commodore 64 nostalgia.
There is no amount of nostalgia that can tell you the Super Nintendo was bad, because it had the best Yoshi and platformer game ever.
Yeah.
They're also the same game.
But did the Commodore 64 have any like groundbreaking games that can still have good replayability in 2018?
I can't name a single game on it unless like Pong was on it.
I'm gonna look at the gaming library or the software library.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure how many Commodore 64 exclusives I could name, but
Has anyone played a Commodore 64?
no.
I don't think I've seen one.
Yeah, I've
back when I
seen
worked
one.
at this replay.
Okay.
We actually got a couple in. That was kind of interesting, but I never turned it on or tested
Ooh.
them.
Oregon Trail was for the Commodore 64.
But that came on other things.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of Commodore 64 games just got ported to PCs when PCs came around. So
There was a game called Sex Mission that was published in 1988 that was on the Commodore 64.
interesting. So with that, moving on. Sony president on PS4 successor. It is necessary to have a next generation hardware. So apparently Sony might be working on the PlayStation 5 or whatever they decide to call it.
Yeah.
It's gotta be the PlayStation 5.
Or it could be the PlayStation 4 Plus Plus. You never know.
Why plus plus?
I don't know.
Oh, that's PlayStation 4. I forgot the plus existed for like 2 seconds.
It's not the plus. It's not called the Plus. It's
That's
The Pro,
online.
the Pro.
it's called the Pro.
Yeah.
But maybe
So
they'll
they're gonna release the Pro Plus.
no the PS4 Plus Plus. That just it makes sense in my head. It was
Yeah, no, I see what you're going for.
though. I guess the PS4 Plus Plus is just a PS5. Am I right, guys?
It
Because
would be.
increment operator. All right.
About,
Ha ha ha.
wouldn't it be
CS
the Q2?
Even I get that one.
Yeah, wouldn't it be the QT5?
Yeah, if you wanted to increment every letter.
So the QT5 is confirmed.
The funny thing is, Qt5 actually is something that exists.
What is
It's-
a QT5?
Well,
real
Qt
cutie.
is a C++ software library, and it is, funny enough, on its 5th version right now. So Qt5 is
So-
something that exists. So I don't think Sony could use that name.
So Sony's gonna get sued for releasing the QT5. They should have probably done some research to figure out if that existed yet. I don't know why they didn't.
They might even use it on the PlayStation. It's pretty popular.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, there's not really much to say here. There's gonna be a future console. It'll probably be like the PS4, but more powerful.
And less features.
And I bet
No,
more VR focused is my prediction.
And more streaming.
Yeah, more streaming stuff, more VR stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I see coming on that.
You think it'll have PlayStation Move?
I don't. I think VR is looking to very much replace PlayStation Move. Funny enough.
Sony's trying to like make the PS4 more of an entertainment machine, right? With like PlayStation TV.
Yeah.
So the PS5 will have more of an emphasis on that.
I don't know, because that's what Microsoft did, and we all know how that ended.
Speaking of
That was just another
Microsoft,
VR. Go ahead.
Project xCloud was announced by Microsoft. The idea is that it's sort of. Actually, is there somebody who knows more about this than I do?
Never heard of it.
Before I totally butcher this.
Let's let you butcher it, and then the audience can be part of our first game show. What did Jake say wrong?
Yeah. Anyway, apparently the
He said to be
idea
on time today.
the idea is to empower people to play games, to play the games they want with the people you want, whenever you want, on whatever device you want. That's the idea.
Ooh, the anti-Nintendo.
So the idea is whether you prefer console or PC, new choices and when and where they play, while giving mobile-only players access to worlds, characters, and immersive stories they haven't been able to experience before. So this and the idea is basically, they want to offer up servers and stuff for games to run and at scales that they couldn't before.
Is Mag coming back?
Is what? Mag?
Mag? Yeah, it's the PS3 game with like 300 players or something. In a single match. It's a lot.
Oh. I see.
Sounds like it's trying to, copy off of the Battle Royale games.
Yeah, I think Mark Brown came up with an idea for that too. So
But man, honestly, Microsoft's page on here really does not tell you at all what this thing is. They use some very fantastical language.
Yeah, it's a multi-device streaming service that they're planning to test in 2019.
Okay, so it is a streaming service. That's what I was getting, but like I can't find anywhere where it actually says that on this page. Oh yeah, it says that it will use state-of-the-art game streaming technology. There it is.
Yeah.
Missed it in all the fluff. So, cool. Microsoft and Google looks like they're both doing the same thing. Which,
they should
I
they
guess,
should buy each other.
since we're talking about that, we should talk about Google's Project Stream, which, unlike Microsoft's xCloud, is currently in beta and being actually used by people. And apparently, it works. This is from The Verge, where one of them got a chance to use it personally at their own home. And basically, they said the game actually ran and looked really great, especially when he was on Ethernet. On Wi-Fi, on some of his devices, it worked very well. On some of his devices, it did not work so well.
Sounds about right.
Supposedly, his Chromebook did it the best over Wi-Fi than all of his devices, except an older Chromebook that he had wouldn't actually play it at all. it wouldn't pass the prerequisite tests for internet speed because apparently its Wi-Fi card sucked. But he said it was pretty good on a 65 megabit connection. He says he wrote M, like capital M capital B here. I'm assuming he meant 65 megabit, not 65 megabyte. Could be wrong, but that's a pretty common mistake that is actually very irritating, but because those are very different. For those who don't know, a 65 megabyte per second,
8 times the other one.
Yeah, 65 meg. You usually see internet speeds advertised in megabits, which is
That way
because
they
it's
can have a higher number.
right. It's because it has a higher number, 8 times higher than megabytes per second. So if you've ever wondered why when you download a file it looks like it's so much slower than your megabits per second, it's because it's showing you megabytes versus megabits. I don't know why megabits is used. Well, I know why. So ISPs can put big numbers on things. That's why it's used, and it's obnoxious. So I'm assuming he meant megabits here because 65 megabytes is an internet connection far out of the reach of the average person. But 65 megabits is fairly common. So yeah, apparently it was a pretty good experience at 1080p. Apparently at higher resolutions, not a very great experience. But if you're good with 1080p, apparently it works great.
Back in my day, 720p was premium.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to see where this technology goes. I'm sure it'll greatly depend on how good your home internet connection is. And, of course, at certain times of day, with peak hours and stuff, especially if a lot of people decide they want to start streaming their video games, the ISPs are going to have some work to do, infrastructure-wise, to be able to support this, to make it realistic for everyone. But
it's a good thing we've spent all those tax dollars giving them the funds to do that they never used.
Yep.
It's a good thing net neutrality was just rejected.
Yep.
Don't the firefighters just love that?
And before we get too political, apparently Microsoft, going back to Microsoft, is close to buying the game developer Obsidian Entertainment. Apparently the deal is 90% finished. It's a matter of when, not if. So they're they made Knights of the Old Republic, Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, they used to make good PC games.
Oh,
well, not used to. They still do.
Yeah,
if they even...
I haven't heard about them in a while. Like, are they? Oh wow. At least EA's not buying them.
True.
Yeah.
Though this isn't 100% confirmed by Obsidian. Obsidian said, "Unfortunately, we don't comment on rumors or speculations other than to say that the Rumors album by Fleetwood Mac still holds up," said an Obsidian spokesperson.
From what I've heard everywhere, like this is probably gonna happen.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, and I have a reason to believe it.
Microsoft, they were pretty.
There are apparently multiple sources for this.
Yeah. Plus at E3, they said that they wanted to acquire more game studios.
Yeah, and since this is a game studio that makes like PC games and stuff, it seems like a good fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we see that deal go. Oh, I guess I don't know why I said hopefully. I don't really care, but I want the rumor to be true. I guess since we're reporting on it, so hopefully it's true.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep. And our last news topic: Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 HD Edition added to Xbox One backwards compatibility. So you can
cool.
play Metal Gear Solid sequels on Xbox One now. For those who have an Xbox One. I know you guys are few and far between, but I know you're out there. You guys are champions.
I know like 2 people who have one. That's like half.
Mauricio and I only know Mauricio. I guess Key.
I know 3 then.
Yeah, I don't know very many people with an Xbox One. But I think that is all we have for news for you guys, so it's time to get into our main topic of the week. This week we have Julian hosting Pokemon. How do we make Pokemon fun again? Or how do we make Pokemon great again in the title of the podcast?
Make Pokemon great again?
Get it? Because
Trump? I thought we weren't getting political.
We
You
just got
stopped
put-
my rant. It was only half baked.
Elrig SSB in the chat says what?
Oh, what up,
That was a
Elrig?
while ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
yo,
so
what up,
insane.
Elrig? All
So
right.
Julian, I guess I'll ask to clarify. You said make it great again or make it good again? What did you say?
Make it fun again. How do we make Pokemon fun again is the official title of the PowerPoint
So
presentation.
I guess I'll ask. Do you think that Pokemon is currently not fun? Like, does
Yeah,
it need
that
an
was-
overhaul or does it just need some tweaking? I know you're going to get into that, but let's start with that. Okay.
All right, well,
all you.
well, first I have to play Julian's first slide here, since there is a text effects and music. So hold on to your pants, fellas.
Julian went
Let's dive
all
right
out.
in.
How do we make Pokemon fun again?
Okay.
Did it
So
play?
Julian, why don't you go ahead and start with your experiences with Pokemon?
Okay. So I know that was pretty cringe, but I had to do it. But,
I liked it.
so in this slide, I just wanted to talk about like my experiences with Pokemon. So I first started playing like back on Pokemon Crystal on the Game Boy Color.
Old school gamer here.
Technically, I've never beat Crystal or Ruby,
You
and I
fraud.
kind of fell out of Pokemon. But then I got back into it with Gen 4. That's why I put Pokemon Platinum on the slide. And I used to play like some of the home console games, like Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. I watched the anime like from Gen 1. And I stopped watching from Gen 4. And I watched the Pokemon movies too. Like that's the one I put on the slides. Pokemon 3, the third movie with Entei and Charizard.
The good one.
The good one, yeah. I did collect Pokemon cards. I was never like a competitive player or anything, but I did collect them. I think I kind of fell out of it with like when they introduced EX cards. I think I had a Flygon EX card. That's why I like put it on the slide. And I had a lot of merchandise. Like I collected figurines. I had a Pokewalker when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out. And I played Pokemon Go. The last picture with Mewtwo and that trainer, that's me. That's my like account.
Do you still have your Pokewalker? Aren't those things like super valuable now?
I don't think I have it, no.
I feel like Pokewalkers are like really expensive.
Yeah, they are because Nintendo didn't make any of them.
I remember when everyone had one of those things. Like,
In
Yeah,
high school?
Pokewalker?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I had something like that.
A new Pokewalker from Amazon is $70.
Just as much as the game, like, jeez.
I might be able to find mine. Maybe I can sell it.
Yeah, and like a new like an unopened copy of Soul Silver is $300. Like people say that Heart Gold and Soul Silver is one of the best Pokemon games of all time. If
I'd
not the
argue it
best.
is the best Pokemon game.
I'm inclined to believe. I mean, it has 2 regions, almost all the legendaries. The Pokemon follow behind you, and
Yeah, no, they did
Yeah.
a lot right in Heart
Yeah.
Gold and Soul Silver. Which
they're like,
sucks
let's
'cause I
never do this
got it.
again.
It's part of the reason
They
why I
took the
think
only
Gen
good
4
parts of Gen 4 and took the best Gen, put them together.
The
Yep.
only good parts. Okay.
Gen 4 was amazing. Like,
I'd argue
We're
Gen
not
4
doing
is
this
the best
right now.
Pokemon gen. Yeah.
So you basically are saying that we need to make Pokemon fun again because Gen 4 was the best. Is that
Well,
what-
Gen 4 offered the best improvements over the previous generation. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would go as far as say it was overall the best. It's just like there's so many smart changes they made from Gen 3 to Gen 4.
Physical special split. The
That's
main
the
I would say
90% of it for me.
competitive.
Physical- Yeah,
Gen 4 is the best gen.
yeah. Physical
Everything
special
else,
split.
it can jump in the garbage can.
In Gen 5 we had Weather Wars. Although Gen 6 got didn't Gen 6 do away with infinite weather?
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
so like if you had a Pokemon with Sandstream, it just
it's
lasted
4
5
turns. And if
turns.
you have the item, or 5 turns, and if you have the item, it's 8.
Yeah. So you didn't just like run a Tyranitar on every single team to
Or
get
Politoed when it dominated Weather Wars. Yeah, that was bad.
yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah, what I want to get across with this slide is that I'm a lifelong fan. I wouldn't call myself a competitive Pokemon battler, even though like I do mess around with Smogon from time to time.
And you
Like,
definitely
I know-
you know a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know a lot of stuff, but like I don't go out of my way to make competitive teams and things like that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to make a competitive team, but I always get bored around like the
The,
third
the
Pokemon.
grind.
Like I'll
Yeah.
breed like 2 Pokemon and then I'll get the third, and I was like, you know what? I really don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
And so also, Metagross is a pain in the ass because you need like a perfect Ditto to breed Metagross.
see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because Metagross can't breed with itself. It can only breed with Ditto. So
Oh.
you can't like you can't just like put a better Pokemon into the like kind of when I'm breeding, I'll just put a better Pokemon when I get a better Pokemon. But you always need a Ditto in there. So if you don't have like a perfect Ditto, then you just like mess up the inheritance. And you need to like hope that you win a bunch of coin tosses. And getting a perfect Ditto is really obnoxious. Unless
That's
you
too tedious. Like,
What?
yeah, like I don't want to put in the work to do that. I'd rather just go on Smogon and click double battles than pick my team and just play there.
Yeah. You know, the
Uh,
last time I tried to make a competitive team, I got tired trying to breed Metagross. That's when I stopped.
Was that like Gen 4 or
No, that was Gen 7.
Gen 7? Okay.
Yeah, that was like a year ago. When I was working on that, and I got bored.
Hey, you can move on to the next slide.
Can do.
Yeah, so now I want to ask you guys, like, we kind of already talked about that last slide, but what are your
Why
experiences
is
with Pokemon?
Joe on this?
What the?
That's a meme I made in the chat. So like Nick shared the picture of that guy, and I made that joke of that guy being Joe with his Alolan form.
Kind of like Jake's
I'm
Alolan form. It's when he sticks his neck around the corner and says, "Brawl," you say?
Oh, I could have. See, I made a reference with the song "What Kind of Pokemon Are You?" just to ask you all, what are your experiences with Pokemon? Like,
Oh, are we supposed to tell you?
yeah.
All right, I guess I'll start since everyone's got stunned silence here. I think mine's the simplest. I played
remember.
the ever-loving crap out of Pokemon Ruby Sapphire Pinball, and
Top 5 in the world, right?
hmm.
Weren't you like top 5 in the world in that?
In Ruby, yes, I was for a time. I was on. There was a leaderboard online, and I was in the top 5. Probably not anymore, but I played a lot of that game. Like that was the most played game on my Game Boy Advance SP by far.
Mm.
And
But
then
for
I
the
tried
DS.
Emerald, and I played about 5 hours and got bored. And that's
Oh,
my
yeah.
experience with Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like hardcore into the games and like not into anything else Pokemon related. Never watched the anime, never played the card game, never did Pokemon Go.
You played the
just
card
did-
game once.
I did play the card game once. You're right. I have once played one game of the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah, I guess I did forget to mention I did collect Pokemon cards, which is interesting since I didn't watch the show or play the games. But I did collect cards. I didn't actually know how to play. I just liked the cards.
I still don't know how to play.
And I like
Um,
my friend cousins and I would like pretend to play, but we didn't actually know the rules. So we just made up our own
Oh.
rules.
I did that when I was like 5.
Yeah. This is like pre double digits for sure.
Pretty double digits.
I think I didn't collect Pokemon cards. My older sister did, and I think I borrowed them and we played a really screwed up version when I was 5.
Ron or Mitch?
My next or is Laron's next on the list.
Oh, fine. I played
Oh.
Gen 1 to 3 like 10 years ago, and then that was it for a long time till college. When I started talking to you, and then you had me fill in that battle where I was fighting Steve and I almost lost, even though you were shitting on him. I mean, beating him.
I don't even remember.
Esporting on him.
And then we started doing those soul links, and I started learning a lot more.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I haven't played Gen 6 or 7 game because you have to. Because I haven't. But
So
I've played. I keep up with the ROM hack, or not ROM hacks, the fan games that are done.
Oh, like
So
Obsidian and stuff.
Surgeons, Reborn. Well, Reborn's
Yeah.
not done. Uranium was alright. But if it's
Mhm.
not done, I don't like to mess with. Cause then you gotta come back in 2 years.
I should mention though that I got into the competitive scene. I remember there was a video that inspired me to look into competitive Pokemon. It's the Killer Nacho Wi-Fi battle number 83, Killer Nacho versus God.
Versus God. All right.
And it's like he was playing against like some edgelord scrub on Cerebi or something, and it's just him. He has a setup team. He has like a baton pass setup team where he just sets up a Magikarp and then sweeps this guy's entire Uber team with his level 100 Magikarp. And I was like, I thought it was really interesting because like when I was before I discovered competitive Pokemon, I would play through the games, and like after I beat the game, I'd catch all the legendaries and I'd make a team of a bunch of legendaries and like battle my friends. And I was exactly like this guy that the Killer Nacho eviscerated, and I was like, he just did that with a Magikarp. I'm gonna find out how that worked. And then I found out about like rule sets and competitive Pokemon, and
Oh yeah, yeah, and I very loosely follow the Smogon scene, but not that close.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I forgot to mention that like I used to play the Pokemon Puzzle Week game on Game Boy. I never really messed with like the side games like Pokemon Ranger or
Oh,
yeah,
I
Pokemon
heard
Mystery
Or-
Dungeon though.
Mystery Dungeon.
yeah,
I've never
Mystery Dungeon. I played.
Explorers the Sky. It's fire.
That's what I
I
hear.
played Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team for the Game Boy Advance. That game was awesome.
Yeah, the first two.
My
Yeah,
turn?
Super Mystery Dungeon's garbage. All right.
Oh, and then I'm also a Jigglypuff main in every Smash game. Kind of, not really.
That's just a lie. I don't even know why you bothered saying that one. You're
I'm
just
a
lying to
Jigglypuff
yourself.
main
Yeah,
in-
we all know you just chop off the bottom tiers. You just look at
I'm
double
a-
S. Anything less, you're not touching it.
I'm a Jigglypuff main in Smash 4, kind of. And I'm a Jigglypuff main in Melee doubles.
I'm a Jigglypuff main in Smash 4 when I'm with people who don't know how to play the game. I just rest them and they can't stop me.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'll just assume it's my turn now. As a kid, I did the whole shebang up through Gen 2. A little stint in the late middle school, early high school, where I did Gen 4, and then I ignored it until Gen 6 came out freshman year of college, and then I was like, wow, I actually hate these games.
I like how you like played gens one and then just did all the even numbered gens for a while and then said nah.
No, I haven't touched 8. Or 7.
Yeah,
Whatever.
8 isn't out yet.
Seven is an odd
Yeah,
number.
well, you see what I know.
Yeah, you're
right,
going. That means you're
7's
gonna
an
play
odd
Gen 8.
I have to now just to keep up appearances. I've done the whole install a couple of them on my phone using
Official Nintendo emulator support.
yeah, that one.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I played them all.
And I
So I
usually
have
get
this
to
top
like
at 5.
I usually get to like the first gym and then just stop. I'm like,
Wow.
oh yeah, these
Hey,
games aren't
that sounds what
controllable.
I do. That's exactly what I did with Emerald. I beat the first gym and then I stopped
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like if it's I've played so much of it that I just don't hold my attention anymore, or they were never good to begin with.
Or you've
Okay. I
don't know.
changed as a person, perhaps.
I don't know what
So
you're
yeah,
talking about.
just like real quick, as far as like the topic of discussion goes, like how can we make Pokemon fun again? I don't know like when Pokemon stopped being fun because I still like it.
Yeah, I'll get
Maybe
into
he's
it.
getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
You guys keep asking when he's gonna say it. He said he's gonna say it.
Okay. It's actually on the next slide.
Next
Oh.
slide. What
Wait,
makes
it's on.
Pokemon fun to begin with?
Okay, so yeah, what makes Pokemon fun to begin with? I kind of browsed around the internet just to see what people like would say about this. I'm also talking about this from my own experiences. Like I guess the world, I would say, um, especially when you're a kid, just going out and trying to catch them all and learning about, Kanto or Johto, whichever region you started out with. I will
Yeah.
say that was fun for me. Like, what about you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my
Going
first
out.
Pokemon
Sure.
game was Pokemon Ruby, and I what did I like about it? I don't know. I don't know if exploring was a selling point for me.
Okay. So what was it
Yeah,
selling
no.
point for you? Like the battles, the Pokemon themselves, or
I think it was the battle. It was the fact that I was a dumb kid and like anything was fun, and like my first playthrough felt magical, and I like ever since my first playthrough I've been trying to chase that high again where I have as much fun as I did the first time I played through the game.
okay.
But I've never been able to, like, my first playthrough of Pokemon was the most fun, and it was because I didn't know what I was doing, and I can't
Mhm.
forget what I was doing, so I have to like artificially up the challenge in other ways by like getting into competitive battling and breeding and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Nuzlocke.
Yeah,
Remember I
haven't done
tried a
a Nuzlocke
Nuzlocke
yet.
once.
I should do it. Oh,
Terrible
I did
at them.
try a Nuzlocke, and I did the Nuzlocke version where you have to catch the first Pokemon you encounter in an area, or you don't get a Pokemon from that area. And I got a really bad Pokemon, and it was really frustrating. And then it died, and I also released my starter as part of the Nuzlocke, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't fun. It was just like I could see
It's
where the
torture.
playthrough was going. I was
I mean,
just
I
like,
can only
okay.
stomach that if it's random.
It got to a point where it was just like, okay, so from here on out, I need to grind until I'm like 10 levels over leveled before I could take
Yep.
on the gym, and that's just not fun.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
They do away with that in the newer Pokemon games. Then everyone complains they're too easy. And
no, this was specifically in reference to a Nuzlocke because I got a bad Pokemon. Like I
okay.
needed to overlevel my Pokemon by like 5 levels because
Or else they would die, right?
I had like a Talo. It was Emerald, and I had a Talo and a Wurmple going into the Rock Gym. Those were my
Yeah.
Pokemon.
I tried doing a Nuzlocke too, and I just stopped after a while because I didn't like having to release any Pokemon that fainted. Plus, it's Pokemon, so like
I would
if a
always just
random
take them and put them in a box. I
or
wouldn't
that.
really. I just put them in a box and not use it until I'd officially failed, and or I just gave up.
Like I didn't
I
like
did
how
the,
a random crit would take out one of my Pokemon, or
Yeah.
it's just
That's
torture
how
to
it
me.
works.
I kind of played it like I play a Fire Emblem game where I would like save constantly, and if a Pokemon died, I'd just power off and power back on.
Yeah, I did that too.
Well, that's cheat.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not cheating. You have to. You don't.
No, it's
like,
not cheating in Fire Emblem though.
Yes, it is.
Nah.
I mean I do that in Fire Emblem too, so I'm a fraud. But yeah, so what I'm getting at is that uh, they aren't fun now. Like you have to create your own challenge with Nuzlocks, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I
That's-
don't know.
that's-
like
So,
I
is
also
the
don't
main
think
complaint
that
that the
the-
games are too easy though? Because
Yeah,
that's
because I don't
Yeah,
think the
that's-
challenge. I don't think that's the demographic they're trying to appeal to.
Okay. Okay. So I kind of agree with that. I still find enjoyment in Pokemon games, like in Pokemon Sun. In that was the last Pokemon game I played. I didn't play Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon. I thought the trial battles were a good way of like mixing up the formula, even though it really didn't. You know,
they're just less gyms now, right?
no,
there's no gyms.
there's no gyms.
Yeah, but you have the trial battles, which are pretty much gyms, aren't they?
Yeah,
Not
but
exactly.
they aren't because you fight like different versions of Pokemon called totem Pokemon that have increased stats. Which is
So,
So,
real quick,
it's a
real quick
gym.
tangent. You said totem Pokemon, and it reminded me. Are you as upset as I am that they didn't release a fire grass type Pokemon like that was modeled after a Tiki Torch?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
'Cause
that
I'm
would have
mad
been
that
perfect.
they didn't do that.
Yeah, not really, but now that you bring that up, that would have been perfect for a Alola.
Yeah. So like, there's Pokemon can have two types, and there's like only a handful of missing two type combinations, and fire grass is one of like the hardest Pokemon to design. And then they're like, we're gonna do a Hawaiian theme, but we're not gonna have a Tiki fire grass Pokemon as our
Didn't they
first
also,
fire grass.
didn't they also just like not have a lot of new Pokemon in that one?
And no, there was not a ton of new Pokemon. I think it was a little bit less than average, but not like a
I
lot
think
less
there
than
were like
average.
70 or something.
Yeah.
In Gen 7.
That seems like a lot.
I mean, there's usually like 100 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 70 is a
Do you
respectable
count
number.
Alolan forms?
Oh, I didn't count those.
There's 81 new Pokemon
Okay.
in
That's a
Alola.
respectable number.
Is that includes Alolan Pokemon, right?
I don't know. It
No, it
says
doesn't?
the addition of 81 new Pokemon, bringing the total to 802. So I don't think that includes totem Pokemon or Alolan forms.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's 81 new Pokemon, 18 Alolan forms. So like kind of 99 new Pokemon, sort of. Which is, I think 99 is more than average. Because like Gen 1 and Gen 5 both had 150 new Pokemon.
Remember when they tried to reboot the series with Gen 5 and everyone hated it? So like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't hate Gen 5.
I didn't
I
Gen
never
either.
5
played it.
So Gen 5 tried to do like a morally gray storyline where like the villains were like the main villain wasn't a bad guy. He was just a guy who had good motives but a bad like methodology.
Yeah, I will say In's the best Pokemon villain. Like,
Yeah.
I think Gen 5 has the best story.
That's what I felt when I was playing it.
I mean, it's a little tilting when the villains are like, "We're gonna do our evil plan." And it's like, well, damn, if it's evil, then why are you doing it?
And like Gen 6 wasn't the villain's plot in Gen 6 like we want the world to be more fashionable?
They want
Like
the- they want the world to be more
pendulum swung
beautiful.
in the complete opposite direction. We're gonna make the
They
villains
just memed.
ridiculous, and they're just gonna be evil and have like a really bad motive, and it's just gonna be fun. We're just not even gonna care.
Yeah, Team Flare sucks.
If
I didn't like Team Flare.
if I may interject with a thought on what I think.
Be gone.
What I think one of the aspects of Pokemon I think that makes it fun, even though I haven't really played it, but I've been exposed to a lot of Pokemon. All right.
Right. Who hasn't? They have a large marketing campaign.
And like I think one of the most like interesting thing about Pokemon is almost like you kind of like make your own way through the game. Like everyone ends up with like a different team and like different Pokemon that they take particular care to and level them up instead of others because they liked the way it looked, or and everyone has like these stories like, oh, I caught this Magikarp and I dragged him through the whole game and leveled him up, and like all these different things and funny teams and stuff like that where you kind of like make your own story out of it, like with the Pokemon and stuff that you choose, given like the huge number of them. No, it's not like there's only like 20 to choose from. It's like there's hundreds, and so like
Wow.
everyone has this sort of, and I know that some teams are going to be more common than others, and the game kind of might force you to get certain types or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of them don't become available until post game. Like Gen 2, if you look at Larvitar, the new Dratini of the game, you catch him in the final dungeon after
There's-
you've beaten the Elite Four, and yeah. So there's a
actually
lot of stuff like
name
that.
for those
Pseudo
Pokemon.
legendaries?
Pseudo
Pseu-
legendaries, yeah.
Two legendaries.
But
And
am I
wasn't there
totally
two
out of line with what I
pseudo-legendaries?
said?
No, I think you're spot on. I'm just saying it's not. I'm not trying to make a counter argument. I'm just trying to clarify that the game does streamline you into specific teams, because you're mostly just catch the bird and the insect and the whatever and a Mareep. So everyone puts
Mm.
Mareep on their team because that's the only interesting thing for at least until you get to the post game.
I
don't
kind
know.
of agree with that.
You agree with
Kinda.
that?
Kind of.
So the thing is, if you go with that, you end up with kind of a bad team. Like the bird Pokemon's normally decent, but like every other common
Bird Pokemon's always
besides-
underrated.
The bird Pokemon's always
Mm,
decent. Like
not
it's
in
Yeah,
Gen-
it's always underrated. I'm telling you, man.
not in Gen 6.
Those things can hit hard.
so yeah.
Gen- Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so like if you go with like the most common Pokemon, you end up with a crappy team. And like if you go out of your way to like explore an area and like find all the Pokemon, you'll run into like the good Pokemon. And there's like a couple of
because you get like one good Pokemon per area, and then you'll see that one for the next 3 areas.
yeah. I just think that
And it's just nothing but Geodudes and whatnot in the caves. The new Lapras. Everyone has a Lapras.
nah, I don't think I like had a playthrough where I matched with like my friends doing playthroughs like at all.
Okay.
Partly because I would like intentionally go out of my way not to. Like when I was doing Sun and Moon, I was playing with someone, like we were doing it concurrently. And like I went out of my way, we picked different starters, and like they got the bird Pokemon. I'm like, okay, so I'm not gonna get the bird Pokemon. And that was fun.
And I appreciate that
Okay.
Pokemon as like it allows you to do that. It does not force you to do all that much in particular, at least with your team building. Like it might try to coerce you, but it doesn't force you.
Right.
Which
Yeah, I think about
I
look at
I think is an
Wonder-
important aspect of the series.
That is where it not being that hard comes in. Because if you made the game really hard and it's not balanced, you're gonna be forced to get the same team,
Yeah.
and
I-
then everyone's playthrough will start looking the same, and that'll kind of ruin the magic of the game when everyone just gets the same 8 to 9 Pokemon.
Right.
Because that's the only way you can,
Mhm.
beat everything.
Yeah, but to go on Jake's point, they actually, I believe it was Gen 6, they added Wonder Trade, and
It's Gen
ideally
6.
that would let you get
Oh,
any Pokemon at any time.
I
I think that's kind of cool.
I restricted myself from using Wonder Trade until post game. Like I
Same.
just feel like you could just get a level 100 fully IV Rayquaza at like the beginning of the game. But no,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem.
That usually doesn't happen with Wonder Trade. You usually get like Weedles and stuff. Like,
Yeah, you
Stuff
have
no
to
one
put
wants.
you have to put something in to get something out, so everyone's just grinding for that that one Rayquaza.
When I was doing my breeding, I got bored with releasing Pokemon, so I started doing them on Wonder Trade instead of releasing them, and I got like a perfect IV'd Pokemon from a really common egg group.
yeah, that's what people usually do. They Wonder Trade stuff that isn't perfectly IV'd. And
It was like I think it had 5 32s and a 31 as its IVs. So but it sucked because its speed was the one that wasn't perfectly IV'd, and that's like the only one that you need perfectly IV'd.
yeah.
Unless
don't
you're
have to
going for
explain.
like
Go ahead.
yeah, like unless you're going for like very specific, like oh I want my scissors bullet punch to kill this specific Pokemon with full defense EVs and IVs, then you might need max attack or something. But like for the most part, you can get away with imperfect IVs except in speed, because being 1 speed less is just gonna ruin you.
So this is getting pretty technical and a little off topic, I think.
And
Just-
really, none of that matters for the
fun.
main playthrough.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay,
This
so
is what
That's
basically,
what I was saying.
This is what makes it fun for me. Like this is how I get enjoyment out of Pokemon now. It's just like I coast through the story, I try and get through it as quickly as possible,
Right.
and then I explore the competitive game and see what I could do in the post game.
I
Right.
agree with that.
But
So I'm arguing against it being off topic. I think it's on topic because
fair enough.
So
It was just the IV stuff and all that was just going way over my head. Was all.
Basically, your Pokemon have stats. Good EVs and IVs mean you have good stats.
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
most-
I know, yeah, I know what they are in general, but
I was going to ask, do I need to explain EVs and IVs? But is that
I would rather
way
we
too off
don't.
topic? Yeah, okay.
should
Go
we
on.
just explain them super quick?
is there any real reason to?
Nah.
What are the fans?
Not really.
EVs are something that you can affect through how you battle with the Pokemon, and IVs are something the Pokemon inherently have. And I think that's a quick enough explanation.
It's quick
Yeah.
enough.
Basically, IVs are the things that everyone's like, God, I wish these weren't in the game. And EVs are like, God, I wish they gave me more control over this.
So basically, what I got was for more experienced players, they get enjoyment from the post game, like me and Dan.
Yeah.
Newer players, it's from like customizing your Pokemon when you go through the story. And yeah, all right, you can go on.
Isn't the post game usually just like catch the legendaries?
No,
No?
but it depends on the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, typically Pokemon will do this formula where they'll release 2 games at once, and then in the past they released a 3rd game that was kind of like the complete edition.
Yep.
Well,
now they're releasing 2 new complete
Yellow
edition
and
games.
Crystal, I wouldn't call it a complete edition. It was more like it has some stuff that the other 2 both have. Then it also has some other stuff that it's lacking some stuff the other 2 both have.
But yeah, normally the 3rd version expands on the post game, and that's like it's
Yeah, especially as I will say, as a sort of outsider, I really dislike the way they do Pokemon releases.
I thought it was cool way back when you had the trade
Yeah.
deal, when it really added something that no other game did. But now with the internet, like
The internet exists. It's kind
Yeah.
of necessary. Okay.
and I always thought the 3rd edition stuff was kind of, I don't know.
I mean, the 3rd edition is like DLC before DLC existed.
yeah,
But it costs as
Pretty
much
much.
as a full game.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
like-
It wasn't an add-on. It was like, I mean, I guess it's like you didn't have to buy it or anything, but
No.
people did.
But like,
Like you would
casual
buy it
fans-
as even if you had one of the other games, you still buy it.
yeah, that's true.
it's
It's kind of cash grabby, but I don't think it's the worst.
the post game also changes stuff about the core game too. Like with Platinum, there are different gems. Like, well, the gems were the same, but there are different ways of going about the gems. Like Giratina was the main legendary in Platinum instead of Dialga and Palkia. But yeah, those are minor. But yeah, but that's kind of off topic from the current slide.
Yeah. So
Just-
what is the problem in the first place,
well,
Julian?
I think that
Yeah.
was one of the problems. But yeah,
Yeah, so why isn't Pokemon fun anymore? Just from being in the community, these are some of the problems that I saw. Just the main one being the games are too repetitive, and like Flash, all the games are the same. You know, first you get the starter, then you beat eight of the gyms, defeat the evil team, then become the champion. So, would you all agree with that, or like, is that kind of a?
That's
silly
all
thing
I've
to
ever
say?
heard.
too repetitive.
mean-
I don't think that's okay. Maybe defeat the evil team and become champion, maybe, but get starter, beat 8 gyms. I think that serves
That's-
the game very well.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It sounds
Kickstarter
more like
beat
you're
eight
just not
gyms
enjoying the game anymore.
Is like
Mhm.
get beat 8 gyms. You're really selling that part short. Like that's very vastly oversimplifying what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
agree with
like,
it.
Beating 8 gyms is fun. It just is.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, it's good. I think there are other things to attack first. Let's put it that way.
So
Would you say the difficulty?
something interesting, at least for me, that is actually one of the problems I have with Pokemon. Is
What?
I don't the whole like you beat the 8 gyms thing as the game. I've never thought that was a great system. Like
But the-
it's not like it seems like it would be more interesting if like through the game you had to, like to progress through the story or get like closer to the evil team or whatever. You're like beating on like higher and higher level up people in some kind of evil organization, and having them actually have something to do with the story or like more tightly related to the story as opposed to gyms. Like you're like overcoming trials and getting closer to achieving your ultimate goal. But
Do you
like
want to talk about like
have it tied in the story, but maybe I don't know a lot about the gym stuff, but
yeah, no, the gym stuff isn't tied into the story. You're right.
Yeah,
But
and that
It is kind of the
Here's-
whole going up against more challenges.
If
it
gyms
is.
are
But
part of the world.
but what's my motivation?
so, if that's
Go on
how
an
you
adventure.
feel, if that's what's keeping you from playing Pokemon,
Then
I
it
have a
sounds-
game I want you to try out, Jake. It's called Pokemon Coliseum for the Nintendo GameCube.
Oh
sounds-
no, no.
You didn't like Coliseum?
Yeah,
Well, I'm thinking
Coliseum
of-
is generally loved.
Are you thinking
I'm-
of Battle Revolution?
No.
Yeah,
I'm
that in
thinking of-
Coliseum, the
I'm thinking of the
N64
N64 one with the Elite
Stadium.
Four.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm
Stadium.
thinking
Oh.
of Stadium 2,
Yeah,
where they're
okay.
the Elite Four, and that one just straight up cheats.
Yeah, no, that's beat.
It is unbeatable unless you put your own Pokemon in there with like
Yep.
hack stats.
So let me set up the story for Pokemon Coliseum for you,
Please
Jake,
do.
see if you like it. So you were a member of the evil organization that you're fighting to beat throughout the game.
I already like
and-
this.
Yeah.
It's like
So
Battlefront 2.
the evil organization, it kidnaps Pokemon and it turns them into evil Pokemon.
What does that even mean?
Like
it's kind of a BS thing. It's like they close the door to their heart. Is the in-game explanation.
the official term
I like
is
it.
Shadow Pokemon.
Yeah, the official term is Shadow Pokemon. They close the door to the heart, and your character, I guess, gets like tired of this or has like a sudden change of heart. I don't know. That happens before the game starts. So your character decides to steal the machine that lets the evil team kidnap Pokemon, and they only have one of them. So like that immediately shuts down their operation. And the goal of the game is to like fight through the organization, and you like fight more and more important members of the organization until you get to like the big evil dude at the top.
I appreciate that.
Throughout the game, there's no wild Pokemon. There's only trainer battles.
Yeah.
And throughout the game, the Pokemon you add to the team are the shadow Pokemon that the evil organization has made.
Yeah.
And you steal them from like the evil people.
That's neat.
Cool.
I think that mixed with wild Pokemon would be cool, but
It's kind of like a gimmick that there's no wild Pokemon. And
yeah, that's fair enough. They were shaking up the formula.
They
Yep.
give you access to a grinding spot kind of early on. They give you access to trainers you can battle again and again really early on, and then they give you access to a much better and more efficient grinding spot about like a third of the way through the game. And you start the game with an Umbreon and an Espeon, and
Ooh.
it's pretty nice.
Also, I hear that game is very long. Coliseum.
I never beat it.
Yeah, Coliseum is super long. It was like the first GameCube game I ever had. I got my GameCube for Christmas, and I also got Double Dash and Coliseum. And it took me me and my friends would play it for hours after school every day, and like it took us a long time.
Yeah, like even speedruns of that game are like in like over 10 hours long.
Jeez.
Like it's a long game.
Yeah, I don't think it would make a good speed game because I think there's a
Yeah, there
lot
aren't
of
very many speedrunners for it.
I think there's a lot of unskippable cutscenes. Oh, the world record was set 12 days ago.
Huh.
It's 3 hours, 35 minutes, 51 seconds.
Whoa, that's way shorter than the last thing I ever saw.
Yeah. Anyway,
Nuts.
Pokemon Coliseum.
Decent
It's
game.
like if you don't like the whole battle gyms thing, it's got like you're much more motivated to go through the story as far as like from a character progression. Like your character really wants to free these Pokemon, and like
And you know what? I'll appreciate that the Pokemon Company that they did that. That they made that departure. Because I don't know. That's what I've always thought would be cool if they were to integrate that into the mainline games, is not just doing the gyms, because it just
See.
kind of seems stale, and it seemed like something that was just something that belongs in an old game. I don't know.
I gotcha.
RPGs have stories, and I don't know.
Yeah, Pokemon's always been kind of lame on the story.
Yeah, they tried to make Gen 5 like the story like a little different. Gen 7 too, the story's kind of it's different, I'd say.
How often
I don't know how to
do
call it.
they tie in battles with the story? Like throughout the story, not just towards the end.
A lot.
that's like so.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I feel.
Okay.
Which is like I think that that's kind of like I don't know how to describe this, but like they want you to like hit milestones at certain points in time. So you'll battle like the number 4 member in the entire organization at like a quarter of their way through the game. And then you later battle grunts that are supposedly way below this person at later in the game, and it's just kind of funny that like I don't know, they want to like have high stakes throughout the game, so they want you to battle like number 4, then number 3, then number 2, then number 1 at like even milestones. But what that means from like a storytelling perspective is that these grunts just have way better Pokemon and are way better battlers than like the number 4 in the company. It makes a lot of sense from a gameplay standpoint, but it doesn't make a lot of sense from a story standpoint.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. From a story standpoint, it could just be that the Pokemon don't actually have levels.
So my headcanon for Pokemon, because like you'll fight against people who have been training Pokemon their entire life.
And that
And,
they still have like 6 Pidgeys for some reason.
And like they suck. So my headcanon is that the player character is a literal prodigy. Like he was just born the most naturally talented.
He's
Pokemon
born with the
trainer ever.
ability to think. Maybe I
Interesting.
shouldn't put 6 Magikarps on my team.
Well, so
Do you mean for
it's
like?
not, for me or for my headcanon, it's not that it's that it's legitimately difficult like to form emotional attachment to a wide range of Pokemon. That's why most trainers are type specialists or single Pokemon specialists. It's because like to have a personality, it's kind of like I don't know. It's like to have the personality to mesh with multiple types of Pokemon. It doesn't happen very often. Most people can
That's
only
racist.
control. Most people can only control and like form strong bonds with one type of Pokemon. That's my headcanon.
I think I've seen that before, and I think that's... I don't know why I said that. That's actually irrelevant, but I think that's a good theory.
The Pokemon Origins anime kind of proved my theory about the gym leaders, because you'd think they'd have like
Oh yeah,
level
they're going
100
easy on you.
Pokemon. Yeah, they like auto adjust like
Yeah,
their Pokemon. So like
yeah, that's kind of.
You're not-
That was another headcanon of mine, is that the gym leaders would check your number of badges and have a different team for each number of badges.
yeah.
I know there are some Pokemon ROMs that do that. Some fan-made ones, whatever.
Yeah, that's
ROM
how I
hacks?
thought.
Yeah.
So other complaints that I saw, like the games are too easy.
I think they're
That-
just... Okay,
that goes
Super
back to
Mario,
what I said.
Super
Go on.
Mario Odyssey is an easy game. Super Mario Odyssey is a very easy game, yet it's still fantastic. Like, I don't think that's a good complaint.
So
That game's easy.
the issue here is that the difficult part of RPGs. I'm sorry for taking over.
No, it's fine.
It's okay. It's a discussion.
The thing is, the difficulty from RPGs comes from making difficult decisions about how to spend your resources, basically.
Mhm.
And
Pokemon, you pretty much
is
have
made
unlimited.
for children. So
Right.
that aspect needs to be easier. You can't make it more difficult by like doing something that a kid would be like a 6-year. Like if you are doing like a platformer, you can make the difficulty curve be related to like movement, because a 6-year-old can get better at movement easier than they can get better at strategy. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, I could agree to that.
And
Yeah.
also like learning movement is just as fun when you're a kid as it is when you're an adult. So like that can be fun for both kids and adults, a platformer with a lot of intense movement. Whereas a strategic RPG, it's easy because it needs to be for kids, and unfortunately because it's an RPG, that kind of makes it boring for adults who understand strategy.
I have
Yeah.
played rock, paper, scissors before. I have the chart on the wall. We're good.
So you disagree that Game Freak needs to up the strategy to fit
I think
like?
I
their
feel like that
audience?
would
It's not the target demographic.
Mhm.
They
I
kind
feel like that would impede on the experience of the game.
they
'cause
kind of
then
did it with the
I mean, I think I put hard stuff in the post game.
Yeah,
Mhm.
put hard stuff in the post game.
Like
The
most of their
experience
challenge
share-
comes from the endurance runs, right?
The
you
experience
had those-
share is a real good step in the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
Where like I can
People
flip a
complain about that
switch.
though.
I can flip a switch and make the game harder. I think the experience share is a really elegant solution.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
It hasn't been implemented perfectly in any game it's been in, but it in and of itself is an elegant solution that needs to be like implemented well.
See, I always looked at experience share, especially in Gen 6 Gen X and Y, as kind of a we have so many Pokemon, it's not reasonable to expect you to train them all off the bar.
I don't know. I think most people just go with a team of. I always go with a team of 6, and like
Yeah.
I don't train Pokemon outside of that.
Yeah, I usually don't have more than 10, but I'll usually in the older games I'd always just drop off the ones I liked, but like they weren't good at the this one gym, so I swapped them out, and then suddenly all my other Pokemon, their level doesn't matter anymore because they're just strong. I don't know.
I usually just train up a team of 6 and like train other mons post game if I'm trying to fill
Yep.
out the Pokedex or
Yep.
make another team or something.
And I think that like Gen 6 is the worst implementation of the experience share because like
Really?
the game's easy without the experience share or ridiculously easy with the experience share.
It's for babies
Oh, I
without
got-
the experience.
I
share.
gotcha.
I mean, with the experience share. Sorry.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I feel like
You just are randomly ridiculously overleveled. You just like show up to like the second gym and you're with the experience share turned on and you're like, wait, why are your Pokemon
Well,
so low level?
don't your Pokemon, if you don't have enough badges, they won't listen to you?
No,
That's
it's only if you
traded Pokemon.
traded.
yeah, it's
Pokemon.
only if it's not yours.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they change that anywhere along the lines?
Nope.
No.
Well, shows what I know.
But yeah, I feel like they need to make the game easy enough so that you can focus on exploring and making whatever team you want, and having
Mhm.
your own unique experience, and not be like, wow, I made this team of mediocre mons and I'm getting wrecked.
Mhm.
Yeah, my most recent playthrough was Ultra Moon, and I put a Jigglypuff on my team because I love Jigglypuff, and it basically just felt like I was using a team of 5. Well, it was a Wigglytuff by the end of the game, but like Wigglytuff's a really bad Pokemon. I just ended up teaching it Toxic and like using it to Toxic.
You taught it how to play
Before.
League.
Ah.
Not bad. I thought that was fun.
Okay. So I've also heard Game Freak is running out of ideas for Pokemon.
People say that every gen.
I
Yeah,
hate that argument.
Yeah, I've heard people say that forever, and honestly, like, I
They
don't know. I
have
think the
really
Pokemons are
stupid
cool.
Pokemon in every generation.
Yeah.
Yep.
They do.
Like, go look at Gen 1, like...
Mr.
some of
Mime
those-
exists.
Mr. Mime,
What-
Voltorb,
Isn't there one that's a
Jinx,
pile of garbage?
Garbodor.
Garbodor.
I think he
Are
means...
you talking about Garbodor or Muck?
Or like Grimer and Muck, yeah.
Grimer
there-
and Muck
one of them's
too. I was thinking of
one of them's
Garbodor, but
just-
yeah, Grimer and Muck are a good point.
One of them's just 3 magnets stuck together.
Magneton.
I
that's
think
Gen
I
1.
really like the design of Magnemite and
Yeah.
Magneton.
It's really stupid, but you can still like it.
Yeah, you can like stupid
Wait,
things.
wait, wait.
Like a Loan
There's no-
Executor.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Pokemon ever designed.
Like Magmortar.
No, Magmortar School.
No.
Okay. I've also heard competitive battling is stale.
Well, that's
Oh.
not even their focus.
Yeah.
Well, the small amount I've seen in competitive battling is that you look at the top 16 teams and they're all the same, except
So
like
the
maybe one
issue-
guy saw something out.
The issue with
Also-
competitive-
Which competitive battling are we talking about? I presume
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about VGC because that's all that they care about.
VGC.
I have no idea.
so yeah,
Haven't they been trying to fix that? Like, was it 3 years ago when it was Mega Kangaskhan and like everything, and that was the same?
yeah,
then
I
they-
think they banned Mega Kangaskhan, didn't they?
Yeah.
I believe so.
And then the next year they let you have 2 legendary Pokemon, and then people just put the same Primal and Xerneas in. And then after that, I stopped following. So
I never followed VGC. I was always a smoking. I was about to say some very non-esports things.
I appreciate that.
I don't know if anyone.
I was always a smoking esports rider, I guess.
Oh.
Um,
I don't know if anyone saw the latest VGC, the latest Pokemon championships.
No.
No,
But
I didn't even know
Game
they
Freak
were
just
happening.
yeah, Game Freak introduced these new formats for competitive battling. I
Wait,
forgot. Like
The devs are making the competitive rules.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
VGC is.
That's what
Maybe
BGC
Yeah.
is.
VGC
Huh.
is the like Game Freak sanctioned tournaments, and Smogan is the community sanctioned rule set.
yeah,
Yeah, they have regionals all the way to national.
Game Freak
That's
actually
weird.
supports competitive Pokemon. It's kind of crazy.
Huh.
Which is weird because they made a generation where there's no Pokemon who have a decent speed stat.
Gen 7. Yep.
Gen 7 is like there's the only Pokemon that are competitively viable are legendaries and Toxapex. Oh, and Mimikyu.
It's a like okay, well, you're only allowed to use Pokemon from the Alolan Dex in the in like the previous VGC. I'm not sure if the new format's been introduced. Like I saw a bunch of like Incineroars and Pelipers and stuff. Yeah. So, are there any other problems that you guys noticed? Or
I want to go back to the progression and note HMs, and they seem to be getting rid of those.
well, those are
Those are
got rid
gone
of
now.
that.
Quick one for the homies. Explanation for what an HM is.
Oh, okay. So HMs are special moves that give you that not only like
Never
work
mind.
in
Yeah,
battle,
okay,
but
yeah.
also
But you
let you progress through the game by unlocking areas.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
they're gone
like
now.
Surf.
Okay.
That's an
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
right?
Surf.
Yeah.
Oh man, look
Fly,
at me.
Cut,
Surf, cut, fly,
Rock Smash.
Rock
Yeah, those
Smash,
were really
Strike.
obnoxious because they limit. You always had to have that, the HM esport on your team.
You could say HM slave. I think.
HM
Oh.
Slave. Yeah.
Was
That's
that
fine.
Gen 3 with
I wasn't
waterfall
I
and
wasn't
dive?
I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna say slave, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I still remember
That's the term I've
my
heard.
Gen 4 Bidoof.
But
Yeah,
Bidoof is a
Vivero
god.
was my HM
Or,
Slave
yeah,
in Gen
Vivero.
4. Yeah.
Yeah, Bidoof
'Cause it-
evolved into Bidoof because it could
was
learn
like-
Surf for some reason.
It was a normal water type. So
There's
Oh,
like some of those
did you
moves
have
as well
water
were
typing?
just like
Yeah.
those moves were usually like just awful. Like cut was usually fine and surf
No.
was good, but everything else just like why would I ever want this move in battle?
Cut's awful.
Yeah, Cut's awful. The only good one is Surf.
It's like Surf and Strength.
Well,
Strength is passive.
Strength is passable.
It's passable.
Fly-
Rock Climb is fine.
Fly is fine.
Waterfall.
in-game.
Yeah, Waterfall.
So
Yeah, Fly's fine in game.
Waterfall- But in any sort of post game setting where like people actually switch Pokemon, Fly is trash. But
Yeah,
like while you're
yeah.
playing the game, no one's gonna switch out Pokemon to like counter Fly. Fly is fine.
Yep.
And then
Fly is fly.
Although Gen 7, some people use Fly just for Z Fly.
so like,
Yeah.
what does Z Fly do?
Well, it's just
a-
to have a flying, like, because Landorus Therian doesn't get any other flying moves.
It's just a super.
So they have to use Fly to get Supersonic Sky Strike.
It's just a more powerful, flying type move. Like you can just choose any flying type move, and just it changes to Supersonic Sky Strike, and it's
Is Supersonic Sky Strike just?
It's just a name for the flying Z move. There's 18
Yeah.
different names.
yep.
Okay.
just a friendly reminder. We're at an hour and 10 minutes into the show.
Yeah, we're only like halfway through the slides. So.
You're doing great.
Carry
Going.
on.
So.
Yeah, we should move on.
all right.
Competitive battling is stale, and it's because Game Freak messed up and released no Pokemon with good speed stats.
I guess I agree with that. So would you all say Pokemon Let's Go /Go is the answer?
Okay, the game's not even out, is it?
Yeah, no.
It's
Yeah,
not-
but
Okay, it's not out, but you guys get the premise of what it is, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
pretty
definitely
much.
not the answer.
Yeah, it's not the answer.
It seems like a dumbed down version of Pokemon, which is hard to do.
Yeah,
yeah.
like
So
this game was made for the Pokemon Go crowd.
I think it's going to be interesting in its own way. I mean, they
yeah.
seem to be doing some good stuff, like catching Pokemon gets you experience.
They've
I
been
think
doing
that's
that
cool.
since Gen 6.
Yeah.
Okay, still cool. Yeah, it shows what I know, right?
I mean,
Maybe Gen 5, I forgot. No, it might have been Gen 5.
It's Gen 6, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, it's either 5 or 6, I'm forgetting.
You don't have to like the grinding's much quicker because it's the Pokemon Go combat, but like you get real combat in the gyms and trainers. So you don't just like wander around the woods and do what is essentially walk back and forth and spam A for hours on end.
Hours. What Pokemon game are you playing?
I'm being hyperbolic.
Okay.
There's you can actually see the Pokemon in the overworld. Like, you can
That's
go
a good change. Yeah, that's awesome. Your Pokemon follow you.
Yeah,
You can. Yeah.
that's cool too.
Which is a feature every single Pokemon fan loves
Oh yeah.
and should be in every Pokemon game.
I don't understand. They made it work on the DS of all things. Why? Why never again?
Game Freak's notorious for like cutting features from older Pokemon games.
I think the conspiracy theory is that they don't want one of them to be significantly better than the others, so that people won't buy the new one.
I think it's just because they want certain
that's like-
Pokemon features to be exclusive to their games, which is kind of. I don't really agree with that. If that's their reason.
I get the whole not having the Pokemon follow you, because then they have to make 800 models, especially in X and Y and up, where they're 3D models now.
That is true. Yeah.
But like they already have the models, they could just I don't know. The ones in the battles are probably too much for the overworld. Otherwise, we'd just be having the battles in the overworld.
I mean, it could just be it's probably just a value thing, like the amount of time it takes to animate, the walking, running animations for every Pokemon versus how many more games it'll actually sell for them to do it.
Right. But it's like everyone wants that.
The hardcore Pokemon fans want it. I wonder how many of the new people buying a Pokemon game for the first time care at all.
I think it's good for a game like this. Or it's just Gen 1, right?
It's Gen 1 plus.
And it plays sort of like Gen 1. Because they took out abilities and held items.
Yeah.
Oh, that's stupid.
Because it's like Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go doesn't have abilities and held items. But yeah, it's Gen 1 plus the Alolan Pokemon and Meltan.
Meltan's in it?
Yeah, I can get into the next slide. So yeah, we all agree Pokemon Let's Go isn't the answer. It's more just
it is not. It's different, but it's not quite Breath of the
It'll
Wild.
re-energize your some old fans.
It's not quite Pokemon Coliseum.
I will say that this is a very smart business move that Game Freak's doing with Pokemon Let's Go and their new game for like Pokemon Gen 8. So, what are your expectations for Gen 8? Do you think Game Freak will do anything to quote unquote improve the formula for Pokemon?
We'll probably get something along the lines of Mega Evolution and Alolan. Something in that vein.
We'll get bottle caps for IVs.
Bottle caps?
They did that for...
Bottle caps are an item that you can get in Sun and Moon that... Wait, no, bottle caps are for IVs. I'm stupid.
Yeah, I was like, they already did that.
You're sounding like me out there.
Might be.
What about adding something like... I don't know how well you could do like difficulty levels in Pokemon.
We already talked about that. And they are incompetent.
But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, what does like a difficulty mode look like? Is it just a matter of like being able to turn features on and off? Is that how they would want to do difficulty?
The only way I've seen that implemented was in a fan game where basically they just have higher levels and have held items on harder mode.
There was a difficulty level in a core Pokemon game in Black and White 2.
Oh.
Yeah, and we did talk about that. I remember that.
We talked about how terrible it was.
It was a bad implementation.
Yeah.
But I guess the question I'm posing is, do you guys see a way of doing it?
I think so.
I was just saying this earlier. They're trying to do that with the experience share.
Yeah, but that seems like just one small aspect to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like a minor way of doing it.
Completely changes the way that it changes how fast your Pokemon level, which is the easiest way to affect difficulty is either make your Pokemon weaker or make your opponent's Pokemon stronger. That's how you do balance in an RPG, basically.
Yeah.
You could like make the enemy Pokemon have more synergy or something.
Turning experience share off is making your Pokemon weaker. So that's a balance change to the only thing that you could really have difficulty in.
I mean, they could make the AI better, like
I
a
think they should just make the AI. I like the idea of like different trainers having different AI. I'm not sure if they do this. I think wild Pokemon choose random moves and trainers will choose super effective moves.
I
Okay.
noticed that. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I don't know if that's true.
we
but-
should get a speedrunner on the show. They
Yeah, they
usually
would
know all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I think I know in a Pokemon in Gen 1, they would always use a super effective move, even if it had no even if that move didn't do anything.
That's how ATV took out that Dragonite.
That's there's also a soft lock that you can get into that involves that, because also in Gen 1, they don't run out of PP.
Of course it's not.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so there's a soft lock that you could do that is the enemy Pokemon using I think it's agility, because agility is a psychic type move or something like that, and it doesn't do any damage. Yeah, shout out to Pika Spray Yellow, who does some really cool Pokemon soft locks.
Yeah, soft lock pick if you want to search it on YouTube.
Yeah, soft lock picking is the name of that video series. I really like his Pokemon soft lock picks.
It is my favorite Pokemon content that I've ever watched. It actually almost made me want to play. That's how good it is.
So I'm gonna make 2 points on difficulty. First is, this isn't a Pokemon game, but in the new Dragon Quest, they put all the all the enemies in the overworld. So they took out random battles, and that allowed
Hey.
you to skip the grind. Choose. You can choose to just not level your Pokemon in that case, and so you kind of
Okay.
challenge yourself that way. And then
Okay,
secondly, I would say an interesting way to do it is to assign a level cap to the badges, so that you can't become overwhelmingly strong, and then somehow set it up where you'd need to have some sort of strategy to beat them.
That is another thing fan games do.
Okay.
The ignore feature, they make it so that they'll ignore you based on your how many badges you have. So like if you have 5 badges, level I don't know 50 and higher will ignore you.
See, I didn't know that.
Huh.
I feel
And
like
they add a reverse candy so you can de-level stuff.
Reverse candy, I think, is a bad way to do balance.
Yeah.
Mhm. Like, do you see Game Freak putting in like a difficulty slider or
No,
implementing some of
no.
those features? No.
I
okay.
don't.
I think that they should. I think they shouldn't. I think they won't.
Okay.
Again, I think it's
Like
just
I said,
their
I
target.
think
Their target
it's-
demographic is not the people
ex-
looking for a tie.
The experience share is a really elegant solution. They just need to implement it properly, and they haven't done that yet. I mean, it's not terrible in Gen 7. It's just not perfect yet.
What do they do in Gen 7?
They just rebalanced it. Like Gen 6, the game was just balanced to be ridiculously easy, whether or not the experience share was on. Like Gen 7 is just a little bit harder, I guess.
I do like the difficulty in Gen 7. I think that's a really good fit, like, for the series. Like, I thought some of the totem Pokemon really gave me, like, some of them gave me a hard time.
One of the things that makes Gen 7 harder is the fact that if you, like me, want to experience new Pokemon, you'll catch all the Alolan Pokemon, and they all suck. That
Yeah.
made it harder for me. So my son playthrough, I think the only non-Alolan Pokemon I had is Arcanine, and Arcanine's my favorite Pokemon, so that's
Ooh.
why I had it on my team.
Alolan Raichu was good.
Yeah.
Mimikyu
Mimikyu is cool. Mimikyu is a super cool Pokemon. I love Mimikyu.
Mimikyu is like top 10 Pokemon from Gen 7. But
Mimikyu's
yeah,
for sure my favorite new Gen 7 Pokemon.
it's probably Komodo for me.
The
But
best
I love
Pokemon's
dragons.
Gengar.
Gengar is a real cool Pokemon.
I also like Chandelure.
Hey,
Didn't you
Chandelure
play
gets
it?
unnecessary hate.
I mean, it's one of those. It's just like, it's a chandelier.
Oh yeah, I forgot that they gave the Rattata in Gen 7 Donald Trump hair.
Oh my god. There's hell to pay.
What do you mean, gumshoes? Yeah, that was a meme. He's Donald Trump.
So should I advance to the next slide then, or do you got anything
Yeah.
more
Are there
to
any other expectations for Gen 8 that you guys?
Not really. I
They
think
gotta
we
do
just went
something
back
to
talking about
Expectation is
difficulty.
lock down all these Go fans.
They're gonna throw something at us to make competitive Pokemon easier to get into because they've done that every generation.
They have
They
done
just-
that since every generation.
You just get rid of IVs or make them like really small.
Okay. All right, next slide because it's almost 9:30.
Yeah, we're really butting up close to the end of time here.
Okay, so Game Freak has done a lot of things to try and improve the Pokemon experience. Here are just some of the few that I thought of. Like ever since Gen 2, they introduced the day-night cycle, breeding. Gen 3, they introduced abilities and natures. Gen 4, the physical special split. Gen 7 introduced ride Pokemon, so HMs aren't a thing anymore, thank God. Gen 5 TMs are reusable now.
Oh
thank
my
God.
god! Oh my
Yeah.
god! I forgot about that.
Yeah, TM. If you guys didn't know, TMs used to be
One
like a
time
one-use thing before Gen 5, but they changed that.
that was the single best improvement that Gen 5 made.
Yep. 3D models. I know some people have issues with those. I disagree with that. I think that was a change that was needed for Pokemon.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Customizable trainers. Great. People were asking for that. They put it in Gen 6. Like Dan said, they've tried to make competitive battling more accessible. They introduced stuff like super training, which is a way to allocate EVs for your Pokemon. The PSS. Yeah, go
Super
ahead.
training is the only way to EV train without having a search engine help you figure out, because you need to if without super training you need to battle specific Pokemon, and
Yeah.
you need to know what those specific Pokemon are.
They also introduced horde battles in Gen 6.
Which
Which-
also messes with EV training.
Yeah.
Horde battles make EV trading easier. Most people.
Can't you get not all of the same Pokemon, but different Pokemon will show up?
You could get. Oh, I don't know about the mixed hordes. I know you can
Yes,
get
I think,
four.
yeah, I think it was the mixed hordes that were the problem.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
I don't know
remember
anything.
There was.
You can get Pokemon of the same that are the same with horde battles, but sometimes you can get mixed hordes.
Wait, so am I the only one who doesn't like ride Pokemon?
Doesn't like what?
Ride Pokemon?
You don't like them?
No,
Why?
because it takes it's like ride Pokemon is just okay, you can call on this Pokemon now, and it just feels very
Out of place.
Have you guys played Other M, the Metroid game?
I have to
No.
play other M.
So one of the really cool things about Metroid games is you get access to new areas by getting items. It's
Like a Metroidvania.
pretty, yeah, like a Metroidvania. You get access to new areas by picking up new items. In Other M, you get access to new areas because this guy gives you permission to use items you already have.
Yeah. I heard about this.
He's not even your boss or anything. He's just a guy you used to know. And because Metroid Other M is the terrible garbage fire it is, you're in love with this guy / he's your father figure. It's messed up.
Adam,
And-
right?
Yeah, and you just listen to him, and he's like, "Don't use this weapon; it's dangerous." Even though you have it, and then you it'll appear in gameplay where you could have survived if you just used missiles, but Adam hasn't given you permission to use missiles, so guess I'll die.
Guess I'll die.
I guess
Pokemon feels the same way to me. It's just
I guess to answer your
you
question,
get permission to call this Pokemon now. And the HM stuff, sure, I had an HM slave, and
I guess I'll say I think it's better than HMs, but certainly not the ideal solution.
I think it's the ideal solution.
I
I don't
mean,
see it.
okay, sorry about
okay.
that.
I'm gonna go to a ROM hack I was reading about the other day. It's I think it was a ROM hack at Crystal where they actually made it an open world.
Yeah.
They,
So
they took out all the HM roadblocks and they just had the gyms scale with how many badges you have. They
so
said go do it in whatever order you want.
Ooh,
I think
that's
that would be
neat.
a better option.
when I just lost internet real quick. I don't know when I got cut off.
Yeah, you went quiet for a little bit there, so I started ranting.
Oh, so yeah, like when you have sure I had an HM slave when I was playing through Pokemon, but like it was still my Pokemon that was on my team that like learned an ability that helped me get to new areas. It was
Oh, I
like
get that.
Interesting.
it was my Pokemon that let me get to new areas.
I
Not
don't
a
know if you heard
random
this
Pokemon
part,
that I could
but
call out.
so I said that I think the ride Pokemon is a better solution than HM, but it is far from an ideal solution. Julian disagreed apparently, but
Yeah.
I think that's where we were at when you cut out.
Oh, yeah. I just feel like ride Pokemon remind me of Adam from Other M.
Oh, I get that. It's about player agency, right?
It's
You're
like,
not overcoming the
why-
challenges; you're being allowed to overcome them.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's a really good, succinct way to put it. I don't know. I don't like ride Pokemon. I think HMs are way better.
That's the first time. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also, even though I haven't played Pokemon much, but I like HMs. Like as an idea,
Really?
like using Pokemon to help you
Yeah, I
get to
can't
new
get with that.
areas is.
I mean, if they could
cool.
have kept that feel without limiting your team selection.
Your
Yeah.
move selection. Yeah.
I'd agree with that. But I don't see how.
Yeah.
they
Oh
do
yeah.
that.
Okay. I should be clear. I think that it feels like HMs shouldn't be replace battle moves to me. They should be their own like separate thing. But
Yeah.
What if you got like a 5th move slot, and like
Pokemon who learn HMs just get an extra move.
you could only put an HM on that 5th move slot, and you couldn't use that 5th move slot in battle. So you could either if you want your Pokemon to learn Surf, you teach it to one of his normal 4 move slots. And then if you want a Pokemon to be able to surf so you can get to new areas on the map, you put it in the 5th move slot.
Okay.
I think that's a good solution.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't go as violent. I just give you an item, like, oh, you picked up some shears, cut down that tree yourself.
That's
I've
all.
also-
That could work
I
too.
also heard that.
You can get rocket boots and
Get
No,
a
it's basically
literal
just
surf
ride
sword.
Pokemon.
and stuff like that.
That's basically just ride Pokemon though.
Yeah, but it's about the context. I think that's what Dan's issue was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can move on.
Next slide.
So yeah,
Suggested ways to improve Pokemon.
we talked earlier about suggested ways to improve Pokemon. Like Mitch brought up the items thing. Dan brought up the
Uh-oh.
5th move. But these are some of the things that I've seen online, like a Pokemon MMO.
Well,
Here.
I think that's kind of what I was.
The
the
thing-
open world is what I was saying.
that goes into what Dan was saying last week. People don't know what they
Yeah.
want.
Have you heard of Pokemon?
Pokemon.
I'm pretty sure that's what that screenshot is that I have on
Oh,
Twitch. but I'm
Is
not
it?
sure.
So yeah, Pokemon MMO and one game that encompasses all regions are both things Pokemon fans think they want that would actually be awful.
That would take forever to beat.
How would you
Don't
and
know
make-
those
how
things
would
take
you
forever to beat.
even handle progression in a game that encompasses all 7 regions? Like
I mean, why not
you
just
get
have
to level 100 partway through the third the 3rd or 4th region.
Then it just becomes boring. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They would have to rebalance the game around that. They would have to change some mechanics.
But then that can't be like a new generation of Pokemon games. That needs to be a side game because they'll need to change the way experience.
Yeah,
and
it could be a
stats
side
work.
game. Why not? I think more side games is a
Yeah.
potential way of improving Pokemon.
They got this whole IP and they're just making the same game over and over.
Like when was the last time they made a Coliseum type game?
Isn't it?
That's
I-
the
there
game
was a
Christmas.
Wii one.
X and Y kind of took that away from it.
Well,
X and
there's-
Y is the Coliseum game now, since Coliseum's whole thing was 3D models.
Well, there's Battle Revolution,
Yeah, Battle
That game
Revolution I think is the
sucked.
most recent.
which is garbage.
I don't even remember anything about that game other than hating it.
It's a diet. It's a diet Pokemon Stadium. Like there's no mini games. It's just you go through the campaign and that's it. I will say the animations are cool. Like that. That's it. Yeah, we mostly talked about everything on the slide, like difficulty settings, bringing back old features.
How to make it fresh again. Bring back the old stuff.
Yeah. So, would you guys say most of the stuff is kind of like
Yeah, I
lame,
think
or it wouldn't work? All right.
What,
I
do
think
you,
the
what
open
old
world-
features are you talking about?
Open world is interesting.
Yeah,
Potentially.
the one I was
Open
talking
world.
about earlier with the ROM hack, where the badges level, or the gym's level with the number of badges you have, and
I
like you
like
can go
that, yeah.
anywhere.
Okay.
Like it was made in one of the old games, so it didn't really. It was still pretty much linear because that's just how the games are designed. But with a map specifically designed for that, I think that would be a
Yeah.
good way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, a Pokemon game where like everyone challenges the gyms in a different order, and you can just like get with your friends and tell stories about the game.
And they've
And
got
your
so many
experience.
Pokemon, they could actually try using all of them instead of just having some of them just not exist.
That
I
was
don't
the
know
fun
what you mean.
about. Like he means you can't catch certain Pokemon when you go through a core Pokemon game, right?
Like they just don't exist in the game, and it's not a little of them; it's a lot
Right.
of them.
Okay.
I feel like that's an intentional design decision because
Oh, it
they wanna
totally
make,
is because of
yeah.
linearity.
They also want to make it
They
feel
wanna
like
make
an
the regions-
accomplishment to
Yeah.
get a full Pokedex.
That's fine. But with an offshoot, like open world Pokemon, I think
I
that's
think
well within reason to add up
so.
most
So
of
I
them.
found a list online of like Pokemon spin-off games, and Pokemon Coliseum is like considered its own series for which there are 2 entries: Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. They should make a Pokemon Coliseum 3. That's what we need to revive Pokemon. I've actually never played Gale of Darkness, so maybe Gale of Darkness ties up the story really well.
I never played Gale of Darkness either.
Same.
Can't say.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a GameCube one, right?
Yeah.
Shadow Lugia.
Ah,
Interesting. So should I
And by old
advance?
well, Lauren asked me about old features. I meant like
Oh yeah.
having your Pokemon follow you. That's like the main one everyone brings up.
so I don't think that's entirely aesthetic, and while that is important, I don't think that's enough.
No.
No.
It
It doesn't help with the gameplay. It's just like that's just a neat thing to have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I hear it brought up
Ooh.
so much, but like I feel like that doesn't improve things as much as people think it does, or it's I don't know. It seems like such an unimportant feature to me anyway, but
So, really random tangent. What if there was a move kind of like Trick Room, except it undid the physical special split?
No.
Do you think like any competitively viable Pokemon team would run that move?
No.
Like, is there any Pokemon that wants that?
How would that? What happens to new moves?
It's the same way they used to do it, where
So
like
They just
Yeah,
make it. Oh, so it's like fire,
all
it's
fighter
special.
types are
Oh,
special moves. All
so you're fighting.
fighting types are physical moves. And
Yeah,
it's
no.
just
So you're fighting like a Blaziken, and you use that, and it sucks.
Yeah, it would mostly just be used to like
Nerf the other team.
nerf the other team more than buff your own team. There's not a Pokemon that like learns a really good special move but has a terrible special stat and like
It's more like your Pokemon's already using the special moves, and it just doesn't really see the change.
I think that'd be
Yeah,
a cool
team,
build
that's
around
great.
move. They should add that move to the game.
Do we have to explain what Trick Room is? And
Oh,
I
Trick
have no
Room.
idea.
Nah, keep going.
So Trick Room's a Pokemon move that makes slower Pokemon move first.
yeah, that's it.
Huh?
Neat.
Was that added in Gen 7?
No,
No.
Trick Room's pretty old.
It's
isn't
been
it?
around.
Gen 3 or 4, I
Ah.
think.
I think it's 4.
It's just saying because Gen
And
7
Trick
is all
Room,
slow
like,
Pokemon.
It was introduced in Gen 4. Trick Room's like a really like there's Trick Room teams. You build your entire team around being able to get off Trick Room.
Trick Room's a cool move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like moves like that.
And it completely changes the way a battle works.
Yeah.
One feature that they've tried adding, like I think it appears in 2 main series Pokemon games, is there was this guy that you could battle who reverses type advantages.
Oh yeah, I was in Gen 5.
And
the-
Gen 6.
Might have been in Gen 6? Yeah, okay.
It was in Gen 6. I'm not sure whether or not it was in Gen 7.
I don't believe it was. I don't remember that guy from the low.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gen
And
5
I
had the-
actually
go ahead.
didn't like that like at all.
different than the ordinary. Like it mess with
Yeah.
your
And you got items like according to the number of super effective moves you used. So if you managed to land 3 moves that were super effective, you got like an item from this tier. And
Yeah, it
like,
sounds
was one of
familiar.
the only ways to get like a super special item.
yeah.
And you can only battle them once per day. They have a lot of stuff like that where you could like interact with an NPC once per day and he'll give you something.
The old
Speaking
gold and
of-
silver 1 day of the week.
Speaking of changes of gameplay mechanics, that's the next slide.
Boom.
So are there any gameplay mechanics that you guys see would be an improvement? Like I don't know, changing the types of the starters, like getting rid of
I mean-
EVs and IVs,
Couldn't they just have more starters? Why only 3?
tradition,
Yeah.
plus paper, rock, scissors, fire,
That's
water,
fair.
grass.
There's a bunch of 4-way things you could do. I think there's like 1 or 2 5-way things. Where it just like goes in a circle. You're weak to the previous type and strong against the next type. I also think they should. I don't know why they haven't done this. I think they should do a reverse triangle in the other direction with the secondary types, with ground, flying, and electric. I think their secondary type should be that, and it should be the reverse triangle. So like if you're the fire against the grass, it would be like a fire, electric versus grass ground.
You mean for the starters?
Yeah.
They kind of did that with Gen 4.
Did they have a
Um,
reverse triangle in Gen 4?
Firefighting, grass, ground, and water, steel. Because Infernape could beat Empoleon. Empoleon could beat...
Is fighting super effective against steel?
Yeah.
Huh.
You guys have crazy memories.
Right?
Not really.
It blows my
Didn't
mind.
know Gen 4 did a reverse triangle with
It-
the starters.
I think unless
I
I'm
think
like...
I think every gen, like I ever since I came up with the idea that starters should have the reverse triangle, I'm like, why don't they just do that at every gen?
Didn't Gen 6 kind of do that too? Because fire,
What other
psychic,
gen?
grass, psychic, and water, dark. Because dark beats psychic, psychic beats fighting. Well, that's chestnuts fighting. Never mind. That's off topic.
We are overtime.
Yeah, we are over time.
Yes, we are by quite a bit.
Also, Seismitoad is a god awful
Name?
starter.
And name.
No, Seismitoad's not a starter. I don't know why I thought that.
But anyway, entire structure of the core of the game, I think you should be able to battle 2 Pokemon simultaneously.
You can.
Double battles has been a thing since Gen 3.
Triple then.
That
You,
That's
Yeah,
you
they
been
did
can.
that
since
too.
Gen 6.
Gen 5 actually.
Alright,
Wait, they-
Pokemon solved all my problems.
I mean, I don't know how I would change it other than making it not turn-based, and then that's like not really.
That's changing the entire game.
Yeah, that's a little too much.
It
That's
needs to stay turn based.
that's
Which
a
is
pretty
kind of
big
the point of that headline, I guess. Like, do you think Pokemon could work as a non-turn-based RPG? Like,
potentially.
Not a main series game.
Mm.
I mean, well, like that's kind of what. Well, it's still turn based, but like Mystery Dungeon
mhm.
takes like the turn based structure and kind of like flips it. It's still turn based, but like it's more dynamic.
Mhm. What about getting rid of EVs and IVs? Like, getting rid of them at all, like, completely?
No.
No. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, maybe IVs, but not EVs.
So okay,
Yeah,
so here's the thing.
EVs are
I actually like the idea of IVs, not for competitive, because obviously for competitive it's whack. But like I think I like IVs for like throughout the game. Just it gives Pokemon more personality
Personality, yeah.
and stuff.
I'd agree to
And
that.
then in the end game, you should just be able to just perfect IV by you give them a
Yeah.
pill or some food or something, and they get perfect IVs.
That's literally what they did in Gen 7.
Perfect.
Bottle cap.
Done.
Kind of.
I mean, I think they have what, the random abilities, right? Or the natures, whatever they are.
Natures.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I think they already have enough to distinguish one to do from another.
apparently I
I
should
don't
just
think
play
they need
Gen.
the IVs to do it.
Apparently, I should just play Gen 6 and 7. Sounds like they solved all my problems.
Do you have a
Except for
3DS?
the
Great.
formula, which is still
6
not.
isn't
amazing.
great. Go with Gen 7.
I'm not gonna
Gen
play
7
either, but
is-
I don't have a 3DS, so it's not gonna.
I think
happen.
Sun and Moon's like my favorite of the core Pokemon games. Like honestly, like I love Sun and Moon. But that's off topic.
I
That's
think
very
they added
odd topic.
They added some challenges to the post game, like, you know, you go in, you're like, oh, this guy has a really unique team, and I need to pick a team around it. I don't know.
There's red and blue in Gen 1, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the character red and blue. Isn't there like a character after the post game who has super overleveled Pokemon?
Okay.
What do you mean?
In like
I think they showed up in Sun and Moon at some point,
yeah.
and you had
You
to fight.
fight Red and Gold and Silver, and then Red and Blue show up at the end of Sun and Moon at the battle tree.
You have to battle them.
Well, like they show up at the end, and they're like, "Hey, we're on vacation. Choose one of us to fight." And
You
then
can't
the
fight
other
both of
one,
them?
yeah, and the other one shows up at the end of the battle tree, which is a post game thing.
So you do have to do what Dan said.
And what about Pokemon with 3 types? I've also seen that.
That no.
They
Yeah,
I
already
don't like
have.
that in a main series Pokemon game. Maybe in a side game, but
Like-
not in a main series. Just because you have to like either retcon every Pokemon.
They've done that before. Oh, suddenly there's a baby Pikachu. Oh,
No.
this evolution for Magmar always existed.
He
No,
means like
like-
retcon the types, like how they did with Magnemite. They turned it used to
Turn
be
them into
electric.
metal. Yeah.
Yeah, but then Gen 2 came out. Now it's electric steel. Well, they
Yeah,
like
and
they
that's
like
like-
retconned a bunch of the fairy types in
Yeah.
Gen 6.
They'd have to do that a lot.
Hmm.
For like a decent chunk of Pokemon, they'd have to give a third type.
Yeah,
I mean, they could just like introduce one Pokemon with that and just say, "Oh, look, here's the new Mega Evolution." Oh, or even better, you give your Pokemon a pill and you get to pick its third type.
I think there's kind of a more elegant solution to that in like abilities like Levitate, where Levitate kind of sort of not really makes
Makes
you
it
start
flying.
yeah, you're giving immunity to ground type.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they should do, instead of doing a third type, I think they should introduce more immunity abilities that kind of act as a third type. Or
Okay.
like
Mm.
you can make like a fire or like a water type whose ability makes electric moves regularly effective for some reason.
Don't
like,
they
just
have,
arbitrarily.
Don't they have one for water types that makes electric? No, it's just an electric ground Pokemon. Never mind.
There's Volt Absorb, which
That's the blue thing.
blue
I
things.
think if instead of doing 3 types, they should do more abilities that mess with types
Yeah,
as like a way around that, so that they don't have to say go back and make a bunch of Pokemon 3 types.
I guess they've already been doing that. You know. Yeah. Any other gameplay mechanics that I didn't think of? You could see as an improvement, quote unquote.
Nothing we haven't discussed in previous slides.
All right. So, last slide. After talking about all that, what's the solution? You're gonna have to just click.
Isn't that what? Isn't that
Isn't
what
that
we
what we
were
just
talking
talked
about?
I feel like we've been talking.
Wait, there's a-
All right, yeah, keep looking.
There is no solution. You are blinded by nostalgia. Is what the last.
Well.
After telling you to shut up, for those who didn't get to see the visual.
Yeah, I don't know. There's. I feel like a lot of these, like, oh, Pokemon was never like Pokemon isn't fun anymore. I feel like that's just
They
like
don't
you
like
play.
it.
Yeah, you played Pokemon as a kid, and now you don't like Pokemon anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
where the
there's
that's
been a
where the
lot. There's been a
argument
lot of games with kind of a similar formula. Like you might have gotten bored, disinterested, or like you grew up faster than the games because the games aren't meant for you anymore.
Yeah, but there are ways to improve the formula, and like,
I mean,
but like
if you-
overhauling the core mechanics isn't really the solution.
I
I'd
mean,
say.
if you're gonna go that far and overhaul the game, you might as well just make a new game, right? Make it a spin-off,
Yeah,
Yep. I think they should do more with spin-offs.
like Pokken or Pokemon Warriors.
A Pokken.
Pokemon Warriors would be neat, even though I have no interest in Warriors games and I've never played
I'd
one.
play.
I think they should do a Pokemon Warriors.
I think that's you guys think you want it, but you know you don't.
Yep.
Wow.
I want Pokemon Coliseum 3.
Again, you think you want it, but you don't.
do you actually want it? Would you buy it?
Yeah,
I would actually play it. I promise you, if that game was announced, I would buy it.
Okay, but what does Pokemon Coliseum do that the mainline games don't? Because its old thing was 3D models.
Well, then you could
No.
capture other people's Pokemon.
You can capture other people's Pokemon. The story
The
is
story's
just
different.
the story is completely different.
But couldn't they just put a more interesting story in the normal games?
Yeah,
Yeah, I suggest that as a possibility. But
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that Pokemon games being mobile games is a heavy limitation on what can be done with the series.
Oh yeah.
well,
With the
no, they're not
mainline
mobile
games,
anymore.
because mainline games were never on home consoles until potentially now.
What do you mean potentially? It's
I-
already confirmed.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't keep up. So
Yeah, the new
they
Pokemon games
they
on
might be making some big changes for all we know in Gen 8 because they're not as nearly so technically limited.
That's why I'm saying, let Game Freak do their thing.
Let them milk some money. Just if you don't like it, don't spend it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll keep buying Pokemon games.
there is no problem. You're just blinded by nostalgia.
Well,
I'm
that
gonna
is
pretend
quite a
That's
conclusion.
not directed at me because I also loved Gen 7. I did not like Gen 7 the second time I played through it though.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts
Not really.
before we go into a Shenmue watch here, real quick? All right, we're gonna dive into this week's Shenmue watch.
Why is there always something?
This one was a little bit weak. Shenmue 1 and 2 got a patch.
That's all we got.
Really?
Why? It's an old Dreamcast game.
Well, they just did the big re-release for the for Steam, and
This is really
apparently there was a
necessary.
bunch of glitches with it, like,
Okay.
and they fixed some of those glitches.
Okay.
This is a sneak preview of what Shenmue 3 might look like. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad we actually had something for Shenmue Watch, because I'll admit, I said the whole section and whatnot without knowing if we actually had anything.
I got you.
Okay,
So,
and
yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row though that we did Shenmue 1 and 2 instead of Shenmue 3. We need some. We're getting, the fans are antsy. The fans want
Shenmue 3 news, I know. We need
It's
to...
coming out.
Probably.
It looks.
Are we gonna
looks
put
the way it does?
when it does eventually come out? Are we gonna do it for our game?
Oh, yeah.
club?
Oh, I think we have to. We've talked
Okay,
about it so much.
We kind of have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We do.
We're
I
gonna
thought
we
have
were
to
also
do
doing, like-
Shenmue 3. I mean,
I thought we were also doing Shenmue 1 and 2 at some point in time.
I'm
Let's just
way
stick to
less
3.
interested in that, and just good to
Let's
skip
just
to
stick
3.
to 3.
Okay, we're just doing 3.
Yep.
I'm cool with that. But 1 and 2 just got patched, so now they don't suck as much.
Yeah, but these games are really long.
You can
And
only mean
if
so
I
much.
think I can only do one. 3 games of that length that's a huge commitment.
Yeah. Okay, so
So our last little news topic of the night. Amazon reportedly killed an AI recruitment system because they couldn't stop the tool from discriminating against women.
Fantastic.
This is very, very, very loosely related to
So,
normal things we
the,
talk about on this show, but
The basic rundown is you teach an AI by telling it, this is a good one, this is a bad one, right?
Yeah.
And because, the industries that Amazon would hire are 90% men, it noticed, well, if it says man, it usually gets hired, and if it says, or a lot more with men get hired than women, right? So obviously,
so it learned to downgrade resumes with the word "women's" in it, and lowered scores to graduates of 2 women-only colleges.
That's
So,
amazing.
So neck-bearded incels are going to use this as evidence that women are inferior to men, and that is not the takeaway anyone should be getting from this. The
It's correct.
takeaway
No,
is
it's
the existing hiring practices in tech fields discriminate against women, and the AI could only learn through existing hiring practices in the technology field.
exactly.
yep.
I just want to make that abundantly clear.
I think
We-
I think you need to make that abundantly clear.
Yeah, to be fair, it literally says the algorithm just said like it looked at words that women used or words that men used and like more often and just upgraded or downgraded resumes based on that alone, like without even considering the content on the resume yet. It was already going in with a lower score just on the
Yeah,
first pass.
Don't use this to justify you being a shitty person.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, we don't agree with discriminating against women.
Yeah, I just like this. I'm just going to read
do,
this paragraph
however,
verbatim
find it
from the
hilarious.
article because it's excellent. The team tried to stop the system from taking such factors into account, but ultimately decided that it was impossible to stop it from finding new ways to discriminate against female candidates. Which is awesome. So they were like literally trying to make it stop doing this, and it kept
Okay,
finding
so
new
then-
ways. Which, that's just funny. I don't care who you
That
are.
is
That's
funny.
funny. And to be clear, Amazon has pulled the plug on this thing. They said this is a bad idea. We're not gonna try to make this work. So, and apparently the system did have other problems, like occasionally recommending seemingly completely random candidates, where they couldn't figure out at all why they were selected, and what criteria were taken into account to make that selection.
The future is now, everyone.
So AI apparently isn't very good at reading resumes. That's one of the takeaways from this. That Amazon discriminates against women, and that AIs can't read resumes. And guys, with that, I think we're going to go into the end of our show here. Like to give shout outs to our sponsors this week. Shenmue,
As always.
as always, and I don't know. I need to fill the next 10 seconds to.
Game Freak.
Amazon's
Game
recruitment
Freak.
bot.
Yep. Shout outs to Game Freak and everyone. Have
Shout out
yourselves
to Genius
a good night.
Sonority. Genius
Oh, who
Sonority,
cares?
That's the company that made Pokemon Coliseum. It wasn't Game Freak that made that game.